We are still in the action of the big explosion. The explosion shattered all except one atom, which was left perfect and whole, the hydrogen atom. This, then, was the birth of our Creator, the beginning of our universe, the seventh. You and I and everyone are descended, you might say, from this seventh universe. We still have a long way to go before we can actually reach anything we can relate to on a more personal level, but this is our spiritual family tree. The explosion blasted the subatomic particles outward and upward above the line of demarcation, crystallizing them for all time. The attracting and repelling forces of the universe came into being and caused the very first subatomic particles that exploded out of the black hole to immediately rush or expand into the vacuum. Instead of dissipating, like a cloud in our sky will break up and disappear, the remnants of the fiery gas of creation, hydrogen, were frozen for all time as they drifted off into the absolute 0 degrees of the virgin outer space in which the Big Bang took place. The process of forming a skim of ice took place as they cooled in the outer reaches of space. Here they formed a superstructure over everything. This superstructure, or crystalline lattice, then, is frozen hydrogen in outer space. The subatomic particles were our forebears, remember, and they evolved through many different stages of evolution. In the original universe, they moved in a triangular pattern. After the explosion, this became a round shape and the particles started moving in this manner. Then it became a rectangular pointed shape. As far as to why these patterns are important, they lay out the pattern or shape of the crystalline structure of our elements. For instance, some elements originated in the first universe and have the triangle bases. These shapes are very important to total understanding of the new technology that makes up the projects in the science of music, and are also important because there is a specific pattern to the vibrational content of electricity. These patterns must replace the old vibrational patterns of our current electricity. A study needs done on our present electricity as to the vibrational patterns now in place. This does not have to do with voltage or wattage, but rather with amperes of electricity, which is a more basic form of electricity than we receive in our homes. This will be found at the power plants as the stage electricity is in before being channeled into the form we use in our home. The tone of C. When the particles left the Creator and the first universe was formed, they were all in a spreading fashion. This was a double pie-shaped wedge, connected at one end and not the other. This was the beginning of the division of positive and negative, although they remained connected. This would be a fan-shaped pattern. The tone of D. The next basic pattern found them in the shape of a circular pattern as an outgrowth of this first pattern. This found the detachment of negative energy and made for a positive particle. The tone of E. The third pattern found the negative energy following its own path and forming an upside-down T-shaped pattern. The tone of F. The fourth pattern followed a more complex path, that of positive and negative joined again. This left a neutral zone in the center between the positive and negative. The tone of G. The fifth pattern combined these areas into a spiking pattern. This was balance as far as negative and neutral balancing the positive. The tone of A. The sixth pattern was spiral, which achieved a balance of all three energies. The tone of B. The seventh pattern smoothed all this out into a pattern of perfection as far as not only balanced, but at last linear. All the other patterns had closed circuits or loops. This seventh pattern of our universe allows an open end for higher upgrades of patterns to continue evolution. The tone of F sharp or G flat. The next pattern to be added allowed for delicacy or refinement to be achieved. This was once again a circular pattern but combined with a spiral. The tone of C sharp or D flat. The next took the triangular pattern and entered into a square with a triangle. The tone of G sharp or A flat. This tone is unfamiliar. This is the start of broadening out the pattern for finer vibratory rates. This allowed for much inner space motion within the particle itself. This was flat inside, it had no depth or linear spread. The tone of D sharp or E flat. The D sharp E flat and the A sharp B flat tones are also much larger centered areas in which the particle may have movement. Both the D sharp E flat and the A sharp B flat are lower at the center, rising and widening at the same time. The whole universe formed into a crystalline lattice at the time of the Big Bang. It is in the forming of the lattice that we find the necessary processes to give birth to new creations. The grid map that we have over our planet is a small part of this crystalline lattice of the universe. The rays of the sun between the universes and the superstructure strike the crystalline lattice containing each universe and cause several reactions to take place. To begin with, it separates the universe into a network of vibratory fields which manifest in different dimensions. These dimensions then operate and grow and evolve within their own vibratory field. Picture it as a crystal or diamond that the sun shines on. Each facet of the crystal will give off or emit the colored light of its particular musical tone. There are 12 musical tones in each crystalline lattice that formed at the beginning of creation. These lattices are made up of ice that formed out of the superstructure of the explosion. They became frozen streams of time and space. This was the theory behind the huge crystal at Atlantis. Back to the lattice, because this lattice formed over the substance of which our universe was made, it preserved the integrity of the atomic bits of matter, including you and me. In other words, we were not destroyed, we were allowed to live and to start the process of evolution because of the protective crystalline lattice. The lattice allows each dimension that formed from the different facets to be fed or nourished from all the vibratory rates, even though their particular facet is only one of the 12 vibratory rates. We now have 12 vibratory rates, but there are more vibratory rates to be heard from in the future. This will be in the form of the expanded scales. The crystalline lattice that formed over the gases at the beginning of creation preserved the molecular action of the inert gases and separated them into enclosed units that all had a mixture of the primal gases in them. These mixtures then began a process of decomposition, you might say, which led to new formation of gases. The decomposition of the inert gases led to the forming of the active gases. Even from the beginning of the universe, the process of evolution remains ever the same. The new is built upon the old in an upgraded form. Therefore, the inert gases are, as a matter of fact, the basis of the new active gases it formed. This lattice kept the gases of each particular facet from spreading. In other words, it set a limit of their expansion, thereby allowing or causing interaction between the gases and the light being reflected off of the lattice by the original explosion. The explosion shattered all except one atom, which was left perfect and whole, the hydrogen atom. This, then, was the birth of our Creator, the beginning of our universe. It all starts with a tiny black spot at the center of all universes. This tiny black spot is a tiny black hole of compressed space, and this is where the very high, most central, all-powerful, original core of energy is to be found. The central core of the universe is the life force of all in it. It is made up of frequencies of energies that are so high in pitch that 1 second of a sound of them would split Earth in half. Such a high frequency of pitch or vibration is unknown on the Earth. The central core is the energy center of those extremely high frequencies. This energy is the harmony of the spheres. Hydrogen can be called God if you desire to tie it in with other teachings, but it isn't actually God until it takes on other properties. This would be the same as you. When you were born, you were a subatomic particle. When you reached the stage where the divine sparks were split, each half kept its male and female energies. The hydrogen atom did not split. This is the difference. It kept all energies contained within itself. This means that male and female were kept contained within male and female. Therefore, it is at all times working with a double set of positive and a double set of negative energies. What this allows it to do is to have influence over every other subatomic particle in existence. This is why it can be considered God, or the Creator God. Having this influence over all else means that all else will have some part of hydrogen in it to be a fully functioning part of creation. In the beginning, the inert gases did not have hydrogen as part of them due to being part of the same explosion that gave birth to hydrogen. Therefore, these gases will not mix with other elements until they receive a share of this hydrogen through a transmutation process to be given later. The inert gases will not attract each other until they have gone through a buffering process of being taken from either a gaseous state or a solid state and be liquefied. The buffering process or transmutation will then enable all items brought into manifestation on the earth to have a spark of the Creator, a tiny bit of hydrogen, as its base, and therefore will be compatible and harmonious with all other things in the universe. Until this transmutation takes place, there cannot be harmony among all elements, and until there is harmony among all elements, the compounded universe cannot come into existence. A compounded universe means it is built on blocked or stacked harmony, not single octave harmony. Stacked or blocked harmony simply means harmony spread over octaves instead of being close harmony, that within a single octave, which is what most of our music today consists of. Stacked harmony means that each tone in the musical chord is in a higher octave than the one before. It needs to widen out this way and become stacked harmony, which then resonates much more powerfully than close harmony. The universe could not exist if it were based on close harmony. Close harmony does not give a strong enough magnetic pull to lock any heavenly body into orbit around another. Stacked or blocked harmony will pave the way for collaboration between all worlds, whereas single octave harmony keeps all worlds separated. By using stacked harmony, there can exist communication and travel between all inhabited worlds. We will be able to receive visits from the same constellations that seeded and helped our planet in the beginning. This will allow for fast progress in the spiritual values on the Earth plane. Until this happens, the planet will continue to be torn apart by wars and famine. If something new comes into being, the hydrogen atom is not to be lost as it evolves. This includes human beings. When they are born, this atom is a large part of their makeup, but once the new personality comes into being, the original core of hydrogen and its importance is pushed into the background. This must not happen anymore. The process will involve music at every step of the way. The percentage of water in the human body is very high at birth. It is almost 90%. This balance gradually decreases as the human form ages. It should decrease at a predetermined rate of dropping 1 percentage point for each year of age. This makes it almost non-existent by the time a body reaches the age of 90. This is why humans do not usually live past the age of 90. Up until that point, there is a smidgen of hydrogen left in the body to keep it in the zone needed to be considered a member of God's kingdom. If this percentage of water is not decreased by 1% each year, but is added to by, say, 0.5%, can you imagine how long people would live? It would add another 45 years to their lifespan. If a 1/4 percentage point of water was added each year, it would add, say, 22 years or so to the lifespan. This would be a good starting point. Many people will not accept the statement that the hydrogen atom is truly the creator, and it needs to be accepted. It is the mind that created everything. It is the creator of original creation. Evolution is very important because once the hydrogen atom created something, it was left on its own to evolve with the hydrogen atom ever present and never lost in its process of evolution. But this has not happened. The hydrogen atom has been buried in most processes of evolving, but it's still there as the core. This needs to be recognized and brought to the surface as far as evolution and creation.